Welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. The TV is really loud. I'm just realizing I don't think this remote works. Give me a sec. It's not even that loud. This feels loud. Okay. I'm a little bit unprepared because I'm using this opportunity where my son is taking a little cleaning off dirt bath. So I have a minute. But this is mental health and wellness. Hi. Last week, when we did the course intro, we talked about the ABCs of wellness: affective, behavioral, and cognitive, and how these attributes are always present, but they're not linear. So everything like informs the other, and whatnot. Okay, so now we're gonna break that down, and we're gonna start with mental health. And also, don't mind my Farrah Fawcett hair. I'm not sure why it's doing all that. I don't really care. So, I have the workbook. If you'd like a copy of the workbook, you can email me at ascendingwithashley@gmail.com. I will get you a copy of the workbook. But the workbook is, it's just, I'm gonna just read from the workbook. People in the alley. And then I have some introspection questions for you to do on your own. So if you are like going to be using this course for like your healing or self-development or whatever, I would recommend getting like at least a piece of paper to write out your answers. Just because when you make things that are in your mind tangible, it takes a lot of energy away from your like stress levels, okay? Our mental health is everything. We are constantly bombarded by messages, both outside of us, around us, and how we interpret those messages within our own knowing, experience, and environment. This is how we can sometimes misinterpret things or make things affect us more than we wish, or be affected by them, right? Not the same thing. I swear to God, I just need a few minutes, guys. Okay. The cats. So that's my little blurb about it. Obviously, mental health is something that is important, right? I'm not talking about mental health. When I say mental health, I don't mean it the same way that the system talks about it. Legitimately mean like taking care of your mental health. I think most folks have a connotation because of this society of mental health being like a taboo topic and like scared to like, I don't know. There's a lot of fear around mental health. The system has perpetrated that because that's what it needs. It needs people to deem crazy in order to keep others in line, right? So when I'm talking about mental health, I'm not talking about it from that lens or framework. I'm talking about it as everyone has a brain. We all have the ability to think, and sometimes the things we think about. You better not be using my shampoo. Please hold. I don't know why we're regressing back to toddler years. Last week my entire conditioner, he took my entire conditioner bottle and poured it out. Squeezed it out. I was like, what? Anyway, I need a vacation from everybody, literally, including myself sometimes. And maybe that I felt called to share because I feel like some people feel like that with mental health sometimes. Know your limits, know when to step back, know when to, and if you don't know, at least start asking yourself those questions, right? Like, am I doing too much? But I do have actual questions that I put together for this. How are you feeling about yourself? How do you talk to yourself? How do you rest your mind? How do you interpret things others say to you? What I mean by that is like, do you take things personally? Do you take like comments in passing and go home and like stew in them and like start projecting or think people hate you or whatnot, right? There's a lot of things that you can start to identify about the way you think that can contribute to a more balanced mental state. Okay? Hmm. Are you defensive? Are you open to new information? And do you allow yourself to learn new things? Those aren't necessarily the same thing. What I mean by are you open to new information, that can be either about you, about anything, right? Like, so are your beliefs so firm? Let's take religion. Religion's a really great a really great topic that a lot of people are immovable in within religion. So are you open to other people having different beliefs than you, or do you take that personally, or how do you feel about things like that? Do you allow yourself to learn new things? When you are presented with new information, Nile Valley, stop turning on the water. You are already in the bath. You have enough water. My mental health would greatly, like a 3-day tropical vacation. I'm trying to implement that in my bedroom. It's rainy though, not tropical, and also I still have to mother. Anyway, knowing your limits is a really important thing. Placing boundaries as well, right? But we also don't want to be so close-minded that we don't allow ourselves to grow. I think within the systemic framework of mental health, as someone who went through a mental health crisis, it was reactive abuse is what it was. It took me about 20 years to understand that that's what that was. I was being abused so badly to the point, like emotionally neglected and gaslit to the point that I had to react, and then that reaction is what landed me in trouble with a diagnosis and in jail and shit, right? So reason I told you that story is because when you know your limit, it's important to give your mind and your body that space, right, to find your balance again. And do it without guilt, right? Like, only you know your limits. But I also think, within the context of mental health system, where was I going? It was such a good point, and then no, it's almost 4:20. Within the context of the mental health, when that situation, stop turning on that water, stop it. You have enough water, sir. You are sitting in a bathtub. Anyway, when I had this situation happen, I was in my early 20s. Your brain isn't even fully developed until you're like 25. And so what the doctors told my family was that this was incurable. I was going to be on medicine for the rest of my life. And I was like, this is not... I never agreed with my diagnoses. I never agreed with it. Once I was medicated, I got on board for a couple years, because the medicine did help me get out of psychosis. But the psychosis was my spiritual gifts trying to show up, right? And then everyone around me was like, whoa. I'm sharing all of this because within the medical field, not everything needs to be medicalized. In fact, most things don't. And this society has done the opposite. It has turned everything into quantifying, which means putting numbers on it, and medicalizing literally everything. And that's part of the disconnection between people and their natural ability to just be, right? It's a disease. The medical field itself is a disease in this country. And it's backed by Big Pharma, right? So there's a lot of money in all of this stuff, and insurance, right? So Big Pharma and insurance are leading the cause. I didn't think this conversation was going to go this way. But all that to say is, if you are able to think about your mental... I've been posting a lot of collective readings about the mental aspect, conquering the mental, finding balance within the mental, overthinking and whatnot. And I think right now we're in this really unique time within humanity, because we have access to so much information, but also all of the information we do have access to is completely tailored to our likes and dislikes, right? So everyone's phone is different. Everyone's feeds and algorithms are different, and they are based on pattern recognition. And that is another aspect of quantifying things, right? So it can be very dangerous when we don't allow ourselves to seek out information that can lead us in different directions, right? It can be really, really, really detrimental to your growth mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. If you don't allow yourself, if you just stay in a rigid place, right? Again, all of the things, affective, behavioral, and cognitive, right? So the way you feel, the things you do about the way you feel, and the things that you think about the things that you do and feel are always, they're always moving. It's a constant. There's never a place where you don't have a feeling about something or a thought, or you're an active living person. You're not, it's dynamic, it's not static, right? So you don't have to be a roller coaster, and that's part of the mental health aspect, is understanding that while everything is changing, finding your own balance is super important. So those questions I asked are a way to get there. And I know I'm so passionate about this, which is why I'm running my mouth so much. But like, I think that people just have such a taboo way of thinking about mental health, and especially within this society. I mean, the United States. It's already such a, it's based on lies, it's based on death and genocide. I mean, the whole society. And so everything that comes out of it is impacting our mental health, right? And a lot of people want to grasp onto things that make them feel better, right? That's that affective, the way you feel about things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that wanting to feel good is good for your mental health, right? Gaslighting yourself out of truth just because it makes you feel a certain way is not a good way to go either. So allowing yourself to learn new things is very important. It's like a brain, it's like a, what were those things called that came in like the 90s? Brain teasers, I think, like riddles. I encourage you to continue to work your brain out. Learning new information is a really, really great way to keep your mind healthy. Especially actually, because it's the practice of critical thinking, especially if that new information challenges your already firmly held beliefs. That brings in critical thinking, which is a great practice for your mind. And it can make different connections. Like, your brain is still active. Your brain is an organ, just like all the other parts of your body. It is able to heal itself. And that's what I remember being told when I was in my, 23, that I was going to have to be on meds for the rest of my life. I'm like, actually, no. I'm not doing that. I mean, it took me a few years to actually take the time and space to get off the meds, but I did. And I have resources for that. Don't just stop taking your meds. There's a process you should go through. But I think that it's important to, in the very least, be aware of your mind, the way it works, the connections you make, why you believe certain things you believe, why you feel certain things, why your brain is wired certain ways. And again, there's neural pathways. It's a scientific thing. Like, I did a little bit of studying of the brain when I was on SSRIs, because I was like, I lost like all of my abilities, and my eyes changed. My irises changed colors when I was on medication. So it was like they took my soul. And when I went off of the medication, my eyesight got a little bit better, and I got the coloring back. And I had my access to my gifts. Obviously, if you watch my channel, you know that I have psychic abilities. I think everyone does. I think it's just a matter of decolonizing and allowing yourself to get there. So ultimately, our mental health is everything. And how you perceive the world has a lot to do with the balance or imbalance of your mind. Okay, next week we're gonna go over physical health as it relates to all of that. Okay, have a good one. I gotta go be a mom. Okay, bye.